Imagine living in a town where tomorrow whispers to you every morning. In a small, quiet town nestled on a hillside, that's exactly what started happening. Every day, just as the sun began to rise, faint sounds would drift through the streets. The soft thud of footsteps on a path no one was walking on. The creak of a door opening when all were shut. Hushed whispers with no one there to speak them. These were the echoes of tomorrow, arriving a day early. The town elders, with their years of wisdom and folklore, had a theory. They claimed that time itself was bending around their little town, like a river eddying around a stone. They said the fabric of reality had grown thin, allowing the sounds of the next day to slip through the cracks and into the present. At first, it was a curious novelty, a harmless quirk of their isolated home. A resident might hear the clink of milk bottles on their porch at dawn, and sure enough, the next morning, the milkman would make his delivery. Someone else might hear the distant chime of the church bell, and the following day, a wedding would take place. It became a game, trying to match the morning's echoes with the day's events. But then, the game turned serious. One morning, a young boy named Leo was woken by a sound that chilled him to the bone. It was a voice, panicked and urgent, and it was unmistakably his own. The voice whispered a single, stark warning: "Don't go to the crossroads." Leo was terrified. He was supposed to meet his friends at the crossroads that afternoon to go fishing. He told his parents what he'd heard, and though they were skeptical, the genuine fear in his eyes convinced them to let him stay home. His friends went without him, grumbling about his sudden change of plans. That evening, a tremor shook the entire town. A huge section of the road at the crossroads, weakened by recent rains and unseen erosion, had suddenly collapsed, plunging into a deep sinkhole that opened up beneath it. If Leo and his friends had been there, they wouldn't have stood a chance. From that day on, no one in the town dismissed the morning echoes. They became a vital part of life, a daily ritual of survival. Every sunrise, windows would crack open, and the entire population would listen, holding their breath. The sounds became their oracle, their glimpse into the immediate future. Life in the town transformed. People started making decisions based on what they heard. A farmer might hear the sound of his tractor engine sputtering at dawn and would spend the day doing maintenance instead of plowing. A shopkeeper might hear the shattering of glass and would spend hours reinforcing her shop window. The echoes brought warnings, but they also brought moments of joy. The sound of children's laughter echoing from the schoolyard would bring a smile to everyone's face, a promise of a happy day to come. The murmur of a couple's loving conversation would offer a sense of peace. But the echoes were not always clear. Sometimes they were muddled, a confusing jumble of sounds that sparked debates and arguments. Was that a scream or a cheer? Did you hear a siren? Or was it just the wind? Paranoia began to creep in. Neighbors eyed each other with suspicion, wondering whose argument they'd overheard, whose secret sob had been broadcast to the entire town. The echoes started to strain the bonds that held the community together. People became obsessed with deciphering the auditory clues, trying to prevent every minor mishap and avert every potential conflict. The town that once embraced the future's whispers now lived in its shadow. Anxiety was a constant companion. People planned their days meticulously around the morning's acoustic forecast. If a dawn brought the sound of a heated argument from the direction of the town hall, the council meeting scheduled for the next day would be postponed. If the echo of a dog yelping was heard, pet owners would keep their animals inside. The echoes were a gift, a miracle, but they were also a curse, stripping away the spontaneity and surprise of life. The future was no longer a mystery to be discovered, but a script to be followed. Then came the silent dawns. The first time it happened, the town was thrown into a state of confusion. The sun rose, painting the sky in brilliant colors, but the usual symphony of future sounds was absent. There was only a profound, unnerving silence. People stood at their windows, straining their ears, waiting for a whisper, a footstep, anything. But nothing came. The day that followed was one of the most tense the town had ever experienced. Everyone walked on eggshells, expecting disaster at every turn. But the day passed without incident. It was just a normal, quiet day. The silent dawns became the most feared phenomenon of all. A morning filled with the sounds of arguments or accidents was frightening, but at least it was a known quantity. You could prepare, you could warn people, you could try to change the outcome. But silence was a blank page. It meant tomorrow was completely unwritten. It meant the future was undecided, fluid, and unpredictable. The silence meant that anything could happen. For a town that had grown dependent on knowing what was next, the unknown was the most terrifying prospect imaginable. The silent days were when the town felt most vulnerable. People stayed indoors, locked their doors, and spoke in hushed tones, as if a loud noise might break the fragile peace and invite a catastrophe that the echoes hadn't forewarned. The silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy, suffocating. It was the sound of pure, unadulterated potential, for good or for ill. On those days, the residents of the hillside town realized the true nature of their gift. They hadn't been given control over their future. They had simply been given the script for the next act. When the script was taken away, they were left alone on the stage, with no lines to say and no idea what was coming next. And that, they learned, was the truest form of fear. The fear not of what is to come, but of not knowing what is to come at all. Thank you so much for watching. What would you do if you could hear tomorrow's sounds today? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more tales from the shadows. See you next time.